And movie fans, I saw the Michael Jackson movie biopic at the theaters a couple of days ago. Now, I was really hyped for this movie. I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. I love a lot of his music. To me, he was one of the best singers, performers, slash dancers. Like, there was a reason why it was called a King of Pop. Also, for me, he created the greatest music video of all time with Thriller. Like, I don't think that music video is ever going to be beat. So I went into the movie with a lot of hype and excitement. My overall thoughts on this movie was that I found it to be very okay, and I ended up being disappointed in this movie. I thought this was a very average, safe, okay biopic movie. I don't think this was a bad movie. I wouldn't call it good or great either. It was very middle of the road, mid to me. This movie. And I can understand why critics and audience are divided on this movie. I can see why somebody would walk out of this movie if you're not a Michael Jackson fan and not like this movie. Like, I can understand the criticism towards this movie because I definitely have some problems with this movie. I can also understand why, if you're a Michael Jackson fan, if you really enjoyed or love this movie. I don't, I'm not on either side of that. I'm very much right in the middle when it comes to this movie. So let me start with the positives with this movie. I think Jamal Jackson does a fantastic job in this movie, Michael Jackson's nephew. It felt like I was watching Michael Jackson in this movie. When he was doing the music scenes, it felt like I was watching Michael Jackson perform. He sounded like Michael Jackson with the soft voice. He looked like Michael Jackson. The dance moves, from what I heard, he worked really hard to get them down, and you really can tell in the movie. Like, you really feel like you're watching Michael Jackson dancing up on the stage there. So he got the dance moves down. Sounds like him, like I said. And I think his performance was just really great in this movie. I don't know if he can play beyond this movie when it comes to, because this was his first act job. If he can do something beyond playing Michael Jackson, when it comes to him portraying Michael Jackson, though, great job in this movie. And you really do get a sense of loneliness with his character in this movie, so I like that aspect. When it comes to the actor who played Michael Jackson's dad, he was fantastic in this movie too. Like, I would say Jafar Jackson and the actor who played Michael Jackson's dad, I would say they're the two stands out in this movie. Because when it comes to the actor who played Michael Jackson's dad, he really does a great job of, like, when you see the scenes with him, you really do feel imitated by him. Like, you feel scared of Michael Jackson's dad in this movie. He does a great job of being like this guy that's really a dick and asshole, and you really buy when you like feeling scared by him in his scenes with Michael. So I think he does a great job. The actor who plays Michael's dad in this movie. I think the rest of the cast do a good job. They don't give him like too much to do. Like, I think the actor who plays Michael's mom does a good job. Miles Taylor does a good job. The actor who played Michael's bodyguard does a good job. So the rest of the cast, I think, all do solid jobs in this movie. I would say Jamal Jackson and the actor who plays Jackson's dad, are the two standouts in this movie. And the actor who played Michael Jackson's dad, he's always great in everything. Another positive I would say about this movie is that I think when it comes to recreating music scenes, this movie does a great job. Like, recreating the Thriller music video does a great job where it really makes you feel like you're watching that music video. The scene where he's at the MTV performing Billie G, he does a like does a movie does a great job making you feel like you're watching Michael Jackson perform. The third act that was reshot, where it ends with him doing the concert, it makes you feel like you're at a Michael Jackson concert, and that's really cool. As someone who never went to a Michael Jackson concert, was I wish I did back then. I would have loved to have seen him perform live. So I think the movie does a great job recreating the music moments of Michael Jackson. And I think this movie is a great celebration, a great tribute to Michael Jackson's music. Like, he created some iconic songs and songs that stuck through generations. So I think he does a great job of just being a celebration of his music, of how his music became so popular and beloved by fans. So it's a great tribute celebration towards his music. Now, another positive, so I almost forgot about this. Michael Jackson, when it comes to him as a kid, I think the actor who plays Michael Jackson when he's a little kid, he does a great job. He has a lot of charm. So to me, both actors who portray Michael when it comes to acting, who played Michael as a kid, and Charles Jackson who plays young young adult Michael, I think they both do a great job. Like, the kid was also great at this. Now, when it comes to the negatives with this movie, and this is why I'm getting into the problems I have with this movie, why this brings the movie down, and why I can understand critics not liking this movie, and understand why some people walk out of it not liking it. The story and characters are pretty weak and thin in this movie, to me personally. And this movie feels more like a greatest hits of Michael Jackson. And the dialogue scenes feel like they were just like, oh, we have to put dialogue scenes in there just to make it feel like a movie. Because it feels like they move on from these scenes really quickly, and it feels like they would tuss on something in this movie, but they don't dive into it. That's one of the problems in this movie is that Michael felt like a thing character in this movie to me. And same with the story, where it just never felt like I got to know Michael Jackson as a person or learn anything new about him. Like I never felt like I got to know him as a human being. I never felt like I got to dive into Michael's headspace as a person. He felt very thin, Michael Jackson like character in this movie. And that disappoints me because I think when you look back at Michael Jackson, he was a complicated person, you know. And I felt like if you're gonna do a Michael Jackson movie, there's so much you could have like really explored and really like gone for like a really in depth story of who Michael Jackson was as a person. Like we don't get to see like his inspiration for his other songs outside of Thriller. Like we see him watch old horror movies, so you get the idea where he got the idea for the Thriller music video. We don't get to see like where he got the inspiration for his other songs. And when it comes to just human stuff, when it comes to like stuff with the animals, I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. Like they show when he's a little kid, he can't relate to kids his age. You know, he relates more to animals. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. They don't dive into it though. They don't explore it. They toss on it and then they move on to the next music scene. And I feel like, okay, there's something there. Like when you take out the allegations, there's so much stuff that this movie is covering timeline wise. Where I was like, oh man, this is interesting stuff you really could explore and make Michael Jackson feel more like a person and not just a two-dimensional thing character in this movie. Like I feel like you could have made him a three-dimensional character, and you could have made him a very like you could have told a really compelling story with a whole lot of depth. And they just don't like dive into any of this stuff. His stuff with like him not relating kids, him wanting to be friends with animals more than people. Like they don't dive into that stuff. Even when he gets the operation on his nose about wanting to change his appearance to look perfect, he gets the operation on his nose and he's like telling the doctor, I want to look perfect before the operation. Goes home, the dad sees him and notices he got the operation on his nose. He's like making up a lie saying it's for his sciences. And then they move on to a music scene. They don't dive into that stuff about him wanting to look perfect, him getting an operation on his nose. And that's another example of him just not really diving into stuff or exploring stuff of him as a person. And even with his brothers, I understand the movie's called Michael. The movie is, about him. I think the Jackson Five though are an important part of using that to explore Michael as a person. You don't get any really scenes of with Michael and his brothers. You get one quick scene later on of him coming back from a store when he's a young adult with his bodyguard. His brother's playing basketball outside of the house, and they ask him, "You want to go play Trista?" And that's really the only scene you really get of just him talking to his brothers. And like I get it, the movie's called Michael. The thing though is that to me they were an important part of his childhood. And you just don't get any scenes between him and his brothers to really show how he was like with his brothers. Like how did his brothers? You don't get any scenes of his brothers reacting to like, oh, he wanted to go solo. You don't get any his brothers reacting to that, or like how they felt about it, or how they felt that Michael was taking like the most beating from the dad. You don't get anything there of them like their reaction to that, or how the dad was treating them. They just literally feel like they're just background pops in this movie. And to me, even though the movie's called Michael, if you got into some scenes with the brothers and Michael talking to each other and their viewpoints of him wanting to go solo, I think that would have added to Michael Jackson feeling like a three-dimensional character where it would add depth to Michael as a character. Also, Janet isn't in this movie at all, Janet Jackson, and I know apparently that was because she didn't want to be in the movie, so they couldn't hire somebody to play her since she didn't want to be in the movie. And it sounds like it was one of those things that they have no control over. At the same time, though, it stands out in this movie. It really stands out to me in this movie because I'm just like, it just felt very weird with the family scenes that you don't see Janet at all in this movie. Also, it felt weird because I would say she was the second famous in the family. She didn't become as big as Michael, obviously. At the same time though, I would say she became more, she became obviously more popular than the other brothers, and she was the second most famous person in the family. So that's another reason why I thought it was odd that you don't see her at all in this movie. And then another negative thing with this movie for me, even though I think the actor who plays Michael Jackson's dad does a great job in this movie, I never met Michael Jackson's dad. I feel like he was very one note bad guy in this movie. So I'll put this kind of in the missed category where, yes, he does a great job in this movie. The actor who plays Michael Jackson's dad, you really do buy he's an asshole. The problem for me on the other side of that is that it felt very like one note bad guy. He's just an asshole throughout the whole movie. And look, from what I heard, he sounds like he was a dick, and maybe he was just an asshole through his whole entire life. It just to me it made the character feel very just like thin and one note. It was like, oh, he's just an asshole through the whole movie. You don't even get like a one small moment of him not just being a dick. So it just to me it made the character feel just very one note bad guy to me. Like yes, he does a great job. At the same time, it just made the character feel just extremely one note and not really much more to the character besides being a dick. So that's the negative side to that. Also, when it comes to Michael as a person in this movie, Michael Jackson, this is another problem I have with the movie is that they portray Michael Jackson too much as this good, sweet, perfect angel, and he felt a little too good in this movie to me. Like I never met Michael Jackson, and obviously, later on in his life, he got into some allegations with him and kids and controversial stuff. Whether they were true or not, who knows? I'm not on either side of that. Whether they whether they were true or not, I don't know. In the movie, though, I feel like they portrayed him to us as like a saint, as like he's just this good, sweet, perfect, good guy, and I felt like in the movie, it just felt like they portrayed him just a little too perfect in this movie for me personally. And it just felt like a very safe biopic. It just didn't really do anything I haven't seen in other biopics. And honestly, it just felt like the most safest biopic I've seen in a while. It's like you just don't get anything from really when it comes to diving into Michael Jackson's headspace for him as a person in this movie. It just like I had fun when the music scenes were happening, and I say they're the best parts of the movie. When it comes to story and character, though, it was very like thin and weak. They would toss on something, move on from it pretty quickly, and they want to dive into the stuff that you were going on in this movie. So it just felt very thin and weak, story and character wise. So that's why this movie to me I found to be very okay. It's just like I don't agree with critics why I think it's terrible. I also don't agree with fans why I thought it was entertaining and great. It was just a very mid movie to me. And I think Michael Jackson deserved more than that personally. I think when you look back at Michael Jackson, he was somebody who had a very complicated childhood. He was a very complicated person. I again, when it comes to like stuff later on in his life, whether they were true or not, he obviously had some problems. And I don't think he was, I don't think he was at all a perfect person. And I think this movie portrays him too much as a good person, where he's just a little too much like a perfect angel in this movie. Like I said, so I just feel like to me, there's so much you could have explored Michael Jackson even before the allegations. Like I have no problem if you want to not cover the allegations and maybe save that for the second movie. I understand they reshot the third act of this movie. It was originally going to be 4 hours, and this movie was originally going to end with the allegations. Legally, they couldn't cover that stuff because the state of Jackson family said no, and they just legally they couldn't do it in this movie. So they had to reshoot the whole third act, and I just feel like even if you because I've heard some people say critics are just tearing this movie apart because they didn't cover the allegations part of Michael Jackson's life later on. My problem with the movie is that even if you're not going to cover the allegations and that stuff later on is like the controversial stuff, there was plenty of stuff, in my opinion, that could have been interesting to explore before the allegations. That this movie, like just the stuff they're covering in this movie, I felt like they just didn't really dive into. I just so much stuff in this movie where I'm just like you tuss on it and you don't go and you don't dive into it or like really explore it. So Michael Jackson ends up feeling like a very thin character in this movie to me. So that's my thoughts on the Michael Jackson biopic. It was a very middle of the road movie. It's not a movie I can sit here and say that I thought was good or great. Like I said, it's also not a movie I would, I agree with critics where I think it's terrible. I don't agree with that side either. It's just, to me, I was very middle of the road with this movie. And I would say this when it comes to this Michael Jackson movie. If you're not a Michael Jackson fan, I would say wait to watch this at home. If you're a Michael Jackson fan, I would say go check it out at the theaters. Like, for me personally, I'm a gigantic Michael Jackson fan, and yeah, I have fun with the music scenes. At the same time, I feel like this movie could have been so much more than that with what you had to explore in this. And I'm also a story character film person. So if you're a Michael Jackson fan, go check it out. I think you might have a fun time with this movie. If you're not a Michael Jackson fan, well, if you're a Michael Jackson fan who's looking for a movie that's really gonna like go into depth when it comes to Michael Jackson as a person and really explore his headspace and explore who he was outside of the music and his personal life, this movie ain't the Michael Jackson movie for you. So that's my thoughts on Michael Jackson biopic. Until next time, movie fans.